and the morning she was scheduled to give her son a kidney to save his life. Greta stood at the operating room doors, a hospital gown gaping at her back. The smell of antiseptic was a promise and a threat. Her son, pale and tethered to an IV, couldn't meet her eyes. His wife's grip on his hand was white-knuckled. Just as the orderly's hand touched the gurney to guide her to salvation or mutilation, a small, frantic figure broke through the sterile silence. Her 9-year-old grandson, face streaked with tears he'd been holding for months, clutched the metal rail. "Nana," he whispered, the word a tremor in the hushed hallway. Then louder, a plea and a detonation. Should I tell them the truth about why he needs it? The dirt under Greta's nails was a grounding, earthy brown. In her garden, amidst the defiant spears of early spring tulips and the orderly rows of peony buds, the world made sense. Things grew if you tended them. They wilted if you neglected them. Cause and effect. Here. She was not a recently retired school librarian feeling the echo of an empty house, but a cultivator of life. The phone call shattered the morningbirdsong.com. "Greta? It's Lydia." Her daughter-in-law's voice was always a precise instrument, each syllable carefully placed. Today, it vibrated with a strained, metallic tension. "We're at Mercy General. It's Mark, you need to come." Greta's trowel clattered to the flagstone path. "What's happened? An accident?" A pause, the kind that swallows sound. "His kidneys. They're failing." The drive to the hospital was a blur of fractured green and gray. Mark, her boy, 40 years old. A financial advisor with a smile that still held a shadow of the shy boy he'd been. His father, Carl, had died of a sudden coronary when Mark was 15, leaving Greta to navigate the minefields of teenage grief and manhood alone. They had clung to each other, a unit of two against the world. She had soothed nightmares, proofread college applications, and quietly helped with the down payment on the sleek, modern house he now shared with Lydia and their son, Ben. Their bond was her anchor. In the too-bright hospital room, Mark looked like a bleached version of himself. His skin had a yellowish tinge and dark circles pooled beneath his eyes. When he saw her, he attempted a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Hey, Mai." Lydia stood by the window, a silhouette against the glare. She was impeccably dressed in a cream-sheath dress, her blonde hair a perfect smooth helmet. At 38, she carried herself with the assurance of someone used to managing outcomes. She turned and her gaze swept over Greta's gardening jeans and mud-splashed sneakers without comment. "The doctors are calling it rapidly progressing glomerulina friti," Lydia stated, as if reading from a report. "An aggressive autoimmune attack. His function is down to 15%. Dialysis will start immediately, but it's a stopgap. He needs a transplant." The word hung in the air, clinical and colossal. "A transplant," Greta echoed, sinking into the visitor's chair. Her eyes never left Mark's face. He was steadying his own hands on the white sheet. "A living donor is the best option," Lydia continued, moving to stand possessively beside Mark's bed. "Better outcomes, shorter wait. The family will be tested first, of course." Of course. Greta felt a cold tremor that had nothing to do with the hospital's air conditioning. "I'll be tested immediately." Mark finally looked at her, his eyes wells of gratitude and something else, shame, perhaps. "You don't have to, Ma." "Don't be ridiculous," she said, her voice finding its strength. She reached for his hand. "It was cool. Of course I do." The following week was a procession of sterile rooms and silent anxieties. The family gathered in Mark and Lydia's minimalist living room, all sharp angles and muted grays. Greta's older sister, Helen, had driven in, her presence a warm, no-nonsense comfort. Lydia's parents, the Carlyles, sat stiffly on the austere sofa, radiating a concerned disapproval that seemed directed at the universe for its poor planning. Lydia orchestrated the conversation. She had printouts, timelines, lists of nephrologists. "We need to be systematic," she said, tapping a manicured nail on a spreadsheet. "Mother Greta is the most logical first candidate as a blood relative. Then we look at cousins, friends." Helen squeezed Greta's hand under the coffee table. "It's a big decision, Gret. Major surgery. You have to be sure." "She's sure," Lydia said, not looking up from her papers. "He's her son." The words were true, but their delivery felt like the closing of a door. Greta watched Mark. He sat in his favorite armchair, a cashmere throw over his legs, nodding along to Lydia's plans. He contributed little, his usual quiet humor absent. He seemed smaller, folded in on himself. Greta remembered him like this once before, in the weeks after Carl's funeral. A 15-year-old boy drowning in a suit that was too big, silent, and shattered. She had pulled him back then, piece by piece, with unwavering attention and love. The pull she felt now was the same, a gravitational, maternal imperative to make him whole. But the dynamic was different. Lydia was the sun around which this household orbited. Mark, even in health, often seemed to reflect her light rather than generate his own. Gretler pushed the uncharitable thought away. They were a team. She was just the mother-in-law. Testing began. Blood draws, urine samples, CT scans that mapped the landscape of her internal organs. Greta faced each with a quiet dread she confessed to no one, especially not Helen during their nightly phone calls. "I'm scared stiff," she'd whisper to her empty kitchen after hanging up. The fear wasn't just of the scalpel or the recovery. It was the profound vulnerability of offering up a piece of her own life, a hidden, vital filter to a universe that had already taken Carl. What if it wasn't enough? What if her body at 62 failed them both? Yet every time the doubt swelled, she saw Mark's face in that hospital bed. She remembered teaching him to ride a bike, her hands steady on the seat until he found his balance. This was no different. She just had to hold on a little longer. Dr. Eris, the transplant coordinator, was a woman of kind eyes and direct speech. She called Greta to her office, the walls adorned with diplomas and pictures of smiling post-transplant patients. "The results are in, Greta. You are an excellent match. Better than we often see for parent-to-child donations. Your kidney is healthy, your blood and tissue compatibility are very strong." Relief, warm and effervescent, flooded Greta's chest. Then, just as quickly, it was followed by the solid, heavy reality of it. It was real. She would do it. She brought the news to Mark and Lydia's home. Lydia answered the door, her phone pressed to her ear. "Yes, tell the office to reschedule the Peterson portfolio review." Indefinitely, she waved Greta in, her expression unreadable. Mark was on the sofa, a laptop open but ignored. Ben, her grandson, was curled at the other end, absorbed in a sketchbook. At 9, Ben was a quiet child, with his father's thoughtful eyes and a startling talent for drawing. He often seemed like a small, sensitive satellite, observing the adult world from a cautious distance. "The doctor called," Greta said, unable to keep a tremulous smile from her face. "I am a match, a good one." Mark's eyes filled. He struggled to get up, but she went to him, wrapping him in a hug. "Oh, Ma, thank you." "Thank you." Over his shoulder, Greta saw Lydia end her call. A profound, shuddering sigh escaped Lydia's lips, the first crack in her polished armor. For a moment, Greta saw pure, unadulterated relief. Then Lydia straightened, the mask sliding back into place. She walked over and placed a hand on Greta's arm. The touch was cool. "This is wonderful news," Lydia said. Her voice was firm, resolute. "We'll schedule the pre-op workup. IMMEDIATELY, Dr. Eris, said that surgery could be within the month." She paused, her gaze locking with Greta's. The gratitude was there, but it was edged with something imperative, immovable. "It's your obligation. You're his mother, and you're saving his life." The word obligation landed in the room like a stone. It echoed, displacing the words choice, gift, love. Greta felt the subtle, seismic shift. The path of compassion she had chosen to walk was being paved over with the concrete of duty. She saw Mark flinch just slightly, but he said nothing, just buried his face in his hands, his shoulders shaking. Ben looked up from his drawing. His young face was a mask of confusion and distress. He looked from his weeping father to his stern mother to his grandmother, whose smile had frozen in place. The machinery of transplant medicine engaged with efficient, impersonal force. Greta met her surgeon, Dr. Evans, a tall woman with a calm, assessing gaze and hands that looked both strong and gentle. "We'll be using a laparoscopic procedure," Dr. Evans explained, pointing to diagrams. "Smaller incisions, less recovery time for you. We'll remove your left kidney here," she said, making a light mark on Greta's side with a pen. The felt tip was cool against her skin. "It's a remarkable gift you're giving, Greta, but it is a major surgery. You need to be physically and psychologically prepared. The donor's welfare is my paramount concern." Greta nodded, clinging to the phrase. Paramount concern. It felt like a life raft in a sea of pressure that was steadily building from Lydia's relentless scheduling, from the well-meaning but overwhelming awe of friends. "You're a saint, Greta," and from the terrified love she felt for her son. Her only solace, besides Helen's steadfast support, was Ben. She started picking him up from school on her testing days, taking him to the park or for ice cream. He was a quiet companion, but his observations were sharp. "Dad doesn't laugh at my jokes anymore," Ben said one afternoon, kicking at pebbles on the path. "He's just tired all the time." "The sickness makes him very tired, sweetheart," Greta said. "Mom says he has to be brave, that we all have to be brave and not complain." Ben scuffed his shoe. "She bought a new watch, a really shiny one. She said Dad needed to see beautiful things to get better." Greta stored that away, a curious, discordant note. Lydia had always had expensive taste, and Mark's career afforded them a luxurious lifestyle. But talk of new purchases during this crisis felt odd. During one of their visits, Ben showed her his sketchbook. The drawings were extraordinary for his age, detailed, emotionally charged. They were pictures of their house, but the windows looked like sad eyes. There was a drawing of their family. Lydia was tall and sharp-angled. Mark was smaller, slightly blurred. In one, a large, dark, cloud-like shape loomed over the three of them. Ben had scribbled over it in black crayon. "What's that, honey?" Greta asked, pointing to the shadow. Ben snapped the book shut. "Nothing. Just a cloud." The doubts, once seeds, began to sprout tendrils that curled around Greta's resolve. A pre-surgery financial counseling session, a standard part of the donor process, revealed a startling fact. When asked about life and disability insurance, Lydia had been vague. "Mark's policies are sufficient," she'd said briskly, but the counselor's paperwork, left open for a moment, listed Mark's primary occupation as currently unemployed, seeking disability. Greta's breath caught. Mark hadn't worked in 6 months. He'd told her he was scaling back, working remotely due to fatigue. That evening, she called Mark. Lydia answered. "He's resting, Greta. Can I take a message? I'd just like to talk to him for a moment, Lydia." A pause. "He's very tired." "Please," Greta's voice held a note she rarely used. Lydia relented. Mark came on the line, his voice thick with sleep or medication. "Ma? Mark, honey, I was just going over some paperwork. This disability status. Why didn't you tell me you'd stopped working?" Silence, then a weary sigh. "Didn't want to worry you. It's temporary." The doctor said the stress. "Lydia's been handling everything. She says it's better if I just focus on getting well." Lydia says. The phrase was a constant refrain. "But the bills? Your insurance?" "Lydia's managing it all," he said, his tone flattening into resignation. "She knows what she's doing. Please, Ma, don't fuss. Just get ready for the surgery. That's the only thing that matters." He sounded less like a partner and more like a patient following doctor's orders. The boy who had once confided in her about everything, bullies, failed test, first heartbreaks, was gone. Walled off behind a barricade of illness and his wife's control. The night before the final pre-operative consultation, Greta stayed for dinner. The atmosphere was strained. Lydia discussed mortgage payments and asset liquidity with a tense focus. Mark picked at his food. After dessert, Ben tugged Greta's sleeve. "Come see my new Lego set, Nana." In his room, surrounded by colorful plastic bricks, Ben didn't reach for the Legos. He stood by his window, his back to her, small shoulders tense. "Nana," he said, his voice so quiet she almost didn't hear it. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Greta's heart stuttered. She knelt beside him. "Want to do what, sweetie?" "Give Dad your kidney." He turned, his eyes huge and luminous with unshed tears. What if he doesn't deserve it? The question was a bolt of lightning in the dim room. "Ben! Of course he deserves it. He's your dad. He's sick." The bedroom door opened. Lydia stood there, a smile pinned to her face that didn't touch her eyes. "Time for bed, Benjamin. Say goodnight to your grandmother." Ben's face shut down, the momentary vulnerability vanishing behind a blank, obedient mask. "Goodnight, Nana." He gave her a quick, stiff hug. As Greta drove home in the dark, Ben's question echoed in the silent car, mingling with the image of the black scribble over the family portrait in his sketchbook. What if he doesn't deserve it? It was the doubt she had refused to name, given voice by the most innocent among them. She told herself it was just a child's fear, his world upended. But the seed of unease had now cracked open, and a dark, questioning root had taken hold. The morning of the surgery dawned gray and still. Greta had not slept. She packed a small bag as if for a strange, sterile vacation. Helen arrived to drive her, her face a mask of supportive calm that couldn't hide the worry in her eyes. "You can still change your mind," Helen said softly as they pulled into the hospital's surgical entrance. "He's my son," Greta said, the mantra now feeling like a ward against the churning in her gut. But it was no longer a statement of pure love. It was a plea, a justification. The pre-op suite was a world of fluorescent light and efficient kindness. Nurses in colorful scrubs helped her into a gown, the papery material gaping open at the back. They inserted the 4. A pinch followed by a cold trickle up her arm. Dr. Evans came in, her calm presence a minor anchor. "All set, Greta? Any last questions?" "Yes, 1,000. "No, I'm ready." But she wasn't. As she was wheeled on the gurney towards the operating room, a primal fear threatened to choke her. The hallway ceilings were a blur of acoustic tiles and wires. The smell was pure hospital antiseptic, bleach, and underlying fear. They paused in a holding area outside the double OR doors. Mark and Lydia were there, having come from his dialysis session. He was in a wheelchair, pale and frail-looking in a hospital Johnny. Lydia stood behind him, one hand on his shoulder, her knuckles white. When she saw Greta, her grip tightened. "Mom!" Mark whispered, his voice raspy. He reached out a trembling hand. Gret took it, squeezing hard. His skin was cool and papery. "It's going to be okay," she said, pouring every ounce of conviction she didn't feel into the words. Lydia leaned down, her face close to Greta's. "We're right here. You're doing the right thing." Her eyes were like polished flint, allowing no dissent. Greta saw no love there, only a fierce, desperate determination. It was the look of a general sending a soldier on a vital mission. An orderly appeared. "We're all set in there. Ready when you are." Dr. Evans gave a final nod. The orderly took hold of the gurney's foot. This was it, the point of no return. Greta closed her eyes, trying to summon an image of a healthy Mark, of Ben's smile, of her garden in full bloom. All she saw was the black scribble in Ben's drawing. Just as the gurney began to move, a small, frantic cry cut through the hushed procedural atmosphere. "Nana! Wait!" Ben erupted from around a corner, where a nurse's aide had presumably been watching him. His face was flushed, tear-streaked, his hair sticking up in frantic tufts. He broke free from the aide's startled grasp and ran, his sneakers squeaking on the linoleum. "Benjamin!" "No." Lydia's command was sharp, but he ignored her. He skidded to a halt beside the gurney, his small hands gripping the metal side rail. He was breathing hard, his eyes wide with a terror that went beyond a child's fear of hospitals. He looked at Greta, then at his parents, then back at Greta. The weight of a terrible secret bowed his small shoulders. "Nana," he whispered, the word a broken thing. Then louder, his voice cracking with the effort, he hurled the question into the sterile silence like a grenade. "Should I tell the truth about why he needs your kidney?" Time stopped. The hum of the overhead lights seemed to grow deafening. Comma. The orderly's hands froze on the gurney. Dr. Evans, who had been about to push through the OR doors, turned slowly. Her professional composure flickered, replaced by sharp, clinical concern. Lydia's face underwent a terrifying transformation. The color drained from her skin, leaving it the gray of old ashes. Her lips parted, but no sound emerged. The hand on Mark's shoulder became a claw. Mark made a small, wounded noise in the back of his throat. His expression of weary gratitude shattered, collapsing into pure, unadulterated panic. He looked from Ben to Lydia, a silent plea in his eyes. "Ben!" Greta breathed, her own heart hammering against her ribs. "What truth?" Dr. Evans took a step forward, her voice calm but authoritative. "Leah, Ben..." The use of his formal name seemed to break the dam. Ben's composure, the brave face he'd been taught to wear, dissolved. A sob ripped from him. "I heard them. I wasn't supposed to, but I heard them fighting." He pointed a trembling finger at his parents. "It wasn't a sickness from nowhere. It was from the trip. Benjamin, that is Enough." Lydia found her voice, a lash of pure fury. She moved to grab him, but Dr. Evans subtly shifted, placing her body between Lydia and the boy. "Let him speak, please," Dr. Evans said, her tone brooking no argument. She looked at Ben, her gaze gentle but firm. "What trip, Ben?" The story tumbled out in a disjointed, tearful torrent, punctuated by Ben's hiccuping sobs and Lydia's hissed attempts to interrupt, which were silenced by a single raised hand from Dr. Evans. "Months ago, a last-minute lavish trip. Mom said they needed to get away before Dad's big project at work got crazy. A private villa in a remote, tropical paradise. They sent me to stay with the Carlyles. Mark, wanting an authentic experience, had ignored the villa. Manager's warnings and drunk from a natural spring in the jungle. He got so sick, throwing up and everything, even in the fancy hospital there. They'd flown home early. Mark desperately ill. They said it was just a bad stomach bug," Ben wept. but I heard them fighting after the doctor here said his kidneys were broken. Mom was yelling that he'd ruined everything, that he was an idiot for drinking the water. Dad said he was sorry, that he didn't know. Mom said, she said they couldn't tell anyone it was his fault. She said they had to say it was a family disease, or people wouldn't feel sorry for them, and Nana might not help. He turned his devastated face to Greta. She said it had to be you, Nana, because you never say no. Because it was your obligation. I wanted to tell you, but Mom said if I ever told, it would break the family and Dad would die because no one would help him. I'm sorry, Nana. I'm so sorry. The silence that followed was absolute and profound. The medical staff stood frozen, a tableau of horrified revelation. The family illness, the autoimmune mystery. The noble tragedy, all of it was ash. Greta stared at the ceiling. She did not look at Mark or Lydia. She saw it all now. The unexplained luxury items, the watch, the new car. Lydia had said was a lease for morale, the hush around his job loss. Not just illness. The financial crater left by a ruined career and a catastrophic, self-inflicted medical disaster. They weren't just asking for her kidney. They were asking her to donate a vital organ to cover up a lie born of vanity and recklessness. Take Mrs. Greta back to her prep room, now. Dr. Evans's voice was low and tight. The orderly, snapping out of his shock, wheeled the gurney away from the OR doors, back down the hall. Greta didn't resist. She felt disembodied, floating above the scene. They put her in a small, private room. Dr. Evans followed, closing the door firmly on the hallway, where Lydia's voice was now rising in a furious, defensive crescendo, and Mark had begun to weep openly. A nurse removed the surgical cap from Greta's head. Another gently removed the The physical preparations for the gift were being undone, but nothing could undo the excavation that had just taken place in her soul. Dr. Evans pulled a chair close. Greta, I need to ask you formally, as you're a physician, given this new information, do you consent to the surgery? Greta turned her head slowly. She looked at the doctor, but her vision was turned inward, cycling through a lifetime of memories, each one now re-examined under the harsh, new light of this betrayal. The loyal son, the devoted mother, a fiction maintained to manipulate her into a literal piece of herself. No, she said. The word was a whisper, then a solid stone. No, I do not consent. Dr. Evans nodded, a flicker of what might have been respect in her eyes. That is your absolute right. I will cancel the procedure immediately and inform the team. She paused. A social worker will be in to see you. I strongly recommend you speak with her before you see your family. Greta barely heard her. The door opened and closed. She was alone with the ruins. The obligation Lydia had hammered into her was now exposed as emotional blackmail. The son she had loved with the ferocity born of shared loss had watched, passive and complicit, as his wife constructed this edifice of lies around his own mistake. And her grandson, her brave, traumatized grandson, had carried the corrosive truth alone, until the moment it would have been too late. A dry, heaving sob finally broke from her. It wasn't for the surgery she wouldn't have, it was for the family she thought she had, which had just disintegrated before her eyes. Helen took her home. Greta moved through her familiar house like a ghost. She ignored the cascading calls from Lydia's number, from Mark's, from numbers she didn't recognize. Likely reporters if Lydia's drama had spilled over. She turned off her phone. The physical scar was absent, but she felt phantom pains, deep aches where trust and certainty had been excised. She sat in her garden, but the tulips seemed garish, the peony buds like clenched, deceitful fists. The simple logic of this place, stand, grow, wither was a mockery. She had tended her family with everything she had, and it had withered from the inside out from a poison she hadn't known was there. She replayed Leo's face 1,000 times, the burden of being the only honest one in a house of lies. She should have listened to his quiet drawings, his hesitant questions. She had been so focused on saving Mark, she had missed the silent cries of the child. He came on the third day, alone. Greta saw his car from the window, saw him sit in the driver's seat for a full 10 minutes before finally getting out. He looked shrunken, older. She opened the door before he could knock. He stood on her porch, a lost boy in a man's failing body. Ma, it was all he could manage before his face crumpled. She let him in, led him to the kitchen. She made tea, not out of hospitality, but for something to do with her hands. The confession was fuller this time, stripped of Lydia's spin, the pressure to be the perfect provider, the high living couple. The trip had been a fantasy, an escape from mounting work stress he'd hidden from everyone. The spring water, a foolish macho impulse, the denial when he got sick, hoping it would pass, Lydia's rage when the true cause was diagnosed, her immediate pivot to damage control. She said we'd lose everything, the house, outstanding if people knew it was my stupid fault. She said you were our only way out, that you owed it to us. After all, Dad didn't get to give me. The manipulation was so calculated, it took Greta's breath away. I was scared, Ma. I am scared. I'm still dying. He reached for her hand, but she drew hers back. The flinch in his eyes was more punishing than any words. Please, I know I lied. I know I betrayed you, but I'm still your son. Please don't let me die for it. It was the cruelest crossroads. The maternal instinct to soothe, to fix, to save, screamed inside her. But it was tangled now with the searing pain of betrayal. To give the kidney would be to absolve the lie. It would tell him that even the most profound deception could be washed clean by her sacrifice. It would tell Ben that truth-takers are punished and liars get rewarded. You're not dying because I won't give you a kidney. Mark, she said, her voice frighteningly calm. You're on dialysis. You're on the transplant list. You are facing the consequences of a choice you made. My not giving you my kidney is a consequence of choices you made. Do you see the difference? He stared at her, not comprehending. He had expected anger, tears, forgiveness. He had not expected this quiet, unassailable logic. Lydia came next, armed for war. There was no pretense of remorse. She was a CEO whose salvage plan had been derailed. He's still your son, she launched in, standing in Greta's living room as if it were a boardroom. Your flesh and blood. Are you really going to let him suffer because you're hurt? Hurt? Greta repeated, letting the absurdity of the word hang. Fine, betrayed, but this is petty, Greta. It's emotional. This is about life and death. Lydia's composure was cracking, revealing the raw desperation beneath. Do you know what this means? Without your kidney, his wait could be years. The dialysis costs are crippling. His disability coverage is a pittance. We're mortgaged to the hilt. That kidney wasn't just an organ, it was our financial survival, our future. Ben's future! There it was, the transaction laid bare. Her kidney was not a gift of love, but a liquidity event, a bailout, a way to preserve a lifestyle that had already cost Mark his health. You want to talk about Ben's future? Greta asked, her voice like ice. You forced a 9-year-old to carry the weight of your lie and threatened him with his father's death to ensure his silence. What does that do to a child's future? Lydia, Lydia blanched but pressed on. We could get a lawyer, argue emotional coercion. A judge might what? Greta interrupted, a cold fury rising. Force me onto an operating table? You are welcome to try. And while you're at it, you can explain to that judge and to the press exactly why my son needs a kidney. How's that for your standing? For the first time, Lydia was speechless. She saw the trap. The truth, once out, was a weapon that could destroy the very things she was fighting to save. Greta sought new counsel. She met with Helen's friend, a retired judge named Martha. They have no legal leg to stand on, Martha said succinctly. No court in the land will compel an organ donation. It is always a gift. Always. She also began seeing a therapist. Dr. Lee, you are not choosing to let your son die, Dr. Lee said gently. In their first session, you are choosing not to be mutilated physically and emotionally under false pretenses. You are choosing to stop saving him from the consequences of his actions. That is not a withdrawal of love. It is perhaps the hardest form of love. The most important healing began with Ben. Lydia, in a fit of pique, had said, "Fine, you deal with him," and dropped him off for a weekend. He was withdrawn, clinging. Convinced he had blown up the family, Gret took him to the botanical gardens. Amongst the vast, silent greenery, she held his hand. You were the bravest person in that hospital, Ben. But Dad's still sick, and you and Mom are fighting. Sometimes, when a secret is a lie, telling the truth feels like breaking something. But really, the thing was already broken. The lie was the break. Your truth was the first step toward fixing it. It might look different when it's fixed, but it will be real. Do you understand the difference between a secret and a lie? He thought, his brow furrowed. A secret is something private. A lie is something false. Yes, they asked you to keep a lie. That's too heavy for anyone to carry, especially you. You put it down. I am so proud of you. He buried his face in her side and cried. But this time, they were tears of release, not of burden. A month later, Greta requested a meeting at the transplant center with Dr. Evans, Mark, and Lydia. Ben was with Helen. The air in the small conference room was thick with tension. Mark looked worse, the strain etched deeper. Lydia was defiantly polished, a statue of resentment. Greta spoke first. She was calm, her hands folded on the table. She had written nothing down. The words were etched on her heart. I will not be donating my kidney, she said. There was no waiver. This is not a punishment. It is a consequence. The gift of an organ requires absolute trust, transparency, and respect. That foundation was destroyed. To proceed would be a violation of my own body and spirit. Lydia opened her mouth, but a look from Dr. Evans silenced her. My love for you, Mark, has not stopped, Greta continued, looking directly at her son. He flinched under her gaze. But it has changed shape. I will not give you a piece of my body, but I am not abandoning you. She laid out her offer, the one she had crafted with Martha and Dr. Lee. She would help them navigate the public transplant list system. She would contribute a fixed, monthly sum to help with dialysis copays, not as a blank check, but as a structured support. She would pay for family therapy for all of them, with a condition that she and Ben have separate sessions. She would mediate with a financial counselor to help them address their debt realistically. This is the help I can give, she said. It is help that respects my boundaries and requires you to be accountable. The path of the lie is closed. This is the path of truth, and it is the only one I will walk on with you. Mark was crying silently. He saw the steel in her, the love that was no longer soft and yielding, but strong and defining. He gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. Lydia stared at the table, her jaw clenched. She saw her bailout vanish, replaced with hard work and exposure. But she also saw there was no other play left. Dr. Evans nodded. These are very reasonable and generous terms. Greta, the transplant team will, of course, continue to care for Mark as a listed patient. 6 months later, Mark was still on dialysis. He was also in therapy. His relationship with Lydia was a tense, fragile thing, held together by necessity and the ghost of what they'd built, now seen in the harsh light of truth. They had downsized their house. Lydia had gone back to work full-time. It was a harder, smaller life, but it was real. Greta and Ben sat on her back porch, shelling peas from the garden. Their bond was quiet and profound, built on the bedrock of the truth they had faced together. He still drew, but the shadows in his pictures were less consuming, sometimes even framed by light. In her garden, Greta attended to the new growth. She had planted a Japanese maple where a rose bush had failed. The roses had been beautiful, but prone to black spot, requiring constant toxic sprays to maintain their illusion of perfection. The maple was slower, its beauty in its changing, honest colors and resilient structure. She thought of the gift she had almost given and the one she had given instead. The kidney would have been a transaction of lies, a piece of her life to perpetuate a fiction. The truth had been a surgery without anesthesia, excising the rot of deception. It had been agonizing, but from that cleared ground, something real, however painful and small, had a chance to grow. The gift was not a filter for his blood. The gift was the clean, sharp, liberating air of truth. And finally, she could breathe it in.